Hello, friends. Hello, everyone. Today it is a special day in the sense that I thought of opening my own YouTube channel or unveiling my own YouTube channel. Yes, it will take a little bit of time for me to get a grip of managing this kind of a YouTube channel. But through this, I will try to analyze the game or try to give a ringside view of the game of cricket, be it analysis, be it history of cricket, be it a little bit of nostalgia, everything I will try to cover. Yes, over a period of time, I'm also thinking of coming out with the different sports or covering other sports as well. So welcome again to this first show of the YouTube channel. So what could be it? In the first episode, obviously we have to think about India's disastrous campaign against South Africa, the Test series, where they ended up losing 0-2. So over a period of 12 months, we have seen India being whitewashed twice at their own den, and that is unprecedented in the history of Indian cricket. Even if you go back in time when they lost a couple of Test series to West Indies and England at home somewhere in 83 84 and 84 85, or for the matter, a couple of series losses against Australia and West Indies somewhere in the 50s, mid 50s, late 50s. Even then, they were not whitewashed. That too over a couple of that too over 12 months at home. So, in this episode or in this show, let us look at it from a micro level as to what were the flaws in relation to the Indian batters in the second innings, especially in the second innings of the Guwahati Test. So obviously, let us start with our man KL Rahul. He has been at the receiving end of enough criticism in the recent past, not just in relation to the second innings dismissal in Guwahati. So what went wrong for him? One thing I would say is that was a really good delivery, excellent delivery from Simon Harbour. He beat the batter in the air, and it was a classical off spinner's dismissal with him trying to tempt KL Rahul to play the cover drive or the drive, or maybe on occasions it felt as if he was also trying to play kind of flick shot. So, what really did KL Rahul do wrong here? Well, for a player of his experience, it's a little bit curious to notice that he didn't take an off stump guard. I noticed it on Twitter a few days ago. I guess Anil Kumble also talked about it. When you know that Simon Harmer is not just going to get turn at pace, but also he will try to beat you in the air with his off spinners, trying to vary his pace, especially when you're going to play on a day 4 pitch. It makes sense. It's logical to take an off stump guard. Unfortunately, for a player of his experience, he did do it. None from the management also talked to him about it for some reason. And then it happened. Harmer bowled it slightly outside off, attacked from outside off. KL Rahul tried to go for the expansive drive. Obviously, front foot was not to the pitch of the ball, and then he kind of played a half drive, half lick, half whip, and he was cleaned up. It is a combination of a great delivery or a very good delivery that led to that indecision, and maybe not exactly good tactics from the batsman. Jaiswal, the next batsman on the cards, as you know, is a very good record. He has a great record, and for me to criticize anything on him, it doesn't make much sense. But if you really want to notice how he has been getting out, I think he's been troubled by left armers. It goes back to the time when Andrew Berger, I think, troubled him in South Africa somewhere in 2023-24. Actually, I had written again on X as to how a left armer can trouble him. The curious point with Jaiswal is he's a backward player. Basically, if you look at his trigger, he's a backward player. So when he comes on the front foot, he lunges a little bit. So initially, you thought that not just left armer, a right armer can also trouble him by angling it across. But for some reason or the other, Jaiswal keeps getting beaten on the outside edge when a right armer bowls from over the wicket and angles it away. That's a curious point to notice. Even when he tries to play cut stroke, he gets beaten on the outside. So a left armer can definitely come into the equation, be it Berger, be it Mitchell Stark, or as we have seen Marco Jansen in this just concluded test series between India and South Africa. Well, what has Jansen done really well? Thing is, he has a wobble ball. Obviously, he's a tall bowler, bowls from a high release. And with that wobble ball, when you're bowling to a left-hander like Jaiswal, or any left-hander for the matter, you expect the ball to come back into the left-hander because he's a left armer from bowling from over the wicket, the three-quarter seam. So if you go slightly wider of the crease, like Jensen has been doing, maybe more from mid crease, angle it in, then what happens is you're not going to give any room for Mr. Jaiswal to play the cut. So if he's going to play the cut stroke, he could be edging one. Because he's bowling from slightly wider of the crease, you could still bring the outside edge into play with that wobble ball because of the angle. It's not as if he's going to bowl very close to the stumps, then you expect him to look for or look to beat on the inside half of the Jaiswal's bat. But here in this case, as he's bowling from a slightly wider angle, he can still bring the outside edge into play. And then there is one more trick that can prove to be Jaiswal's undoing, and that is inside edge onto the stumps. If you notice, a couple of those mode of dismissals happened with Jaiswal while facing Jensen. So that is about Jaiswal, especially when he's facing a left armer. I think that's a better plan against him rather than a right armer going across because for some reason he keeps getting beaten on the outside edge. So that is where I think Jaiswal kind of couldn't get going. Then you have Sai Sudharsan. See, he's shown some good temperament while playing for India A against Australia A. In Australia and also in the Tulip Trophy game where he got 100 against a very decent attack in tricky conditions. But having said that, he's not really clicked in Test cricket. Although it has to be said that he's not got a good run in the side. He was dropped, then brought back for the second test as India continued to grapple with that number 3 position. So with Sai Sudharsan, especially in the second innings, I thought his defense was pretty good on day 5 because the pitch was playing its tricks. Despite that, I think he played inside the line. Sometimes he took his bottom hand off the handle on a surface that had become tricky and also sometimes used his reach to come forward and get outside the line. So on its surface that had become tricky, I think he threw the kitchen sink at the South African lineup. But having said that, including Harmer, I don't think he played enough strokes. He went into a shell. What happens is when you go into such a shell, then you miss out on loose deliveries, and that is what exactly happened with someone like Sai Sudharsan. When he tried to play cut stroke, he hit it straight to the fielder. When he tried to play sweep, he was kind of still having the bat face open and he couldn't get going. So what happens in such cases is you are allowing the bowler to get into a rhythm and finally Simon Harbour got him out. So ideally he could have played a few more shots. For the kind of effort that he put into his defense, he could have easily got 40-50. Obviously he will be under immense pressure because his domestic average, his first class average also is not good, so question marks will be asked about him. I think yes, another one and the problem that is, yes, he picks the length reasonably well against spin, goes back, goes right back or comes forward, but in the DRS era, sometimes you have to be a little more sure when you're going right back, because if you don't pick the length early, and if it turns out to be, what can you say, a slightly fuller delivery and you get out a spinner, you can get out a spinner, because in the DRS era, on-field umpires are also much bolder. So they don't really think about whether height factor comes into play, even if it's a slightly marginal decision. I have seen a lot more decisions going in the favor of the spinners, the finger spinners in this DRS era in Test cricket. So that is Sai Sudarshan for you. In this episode, let's look at one more, or let's look at a couple more batters before wrapping it up. There's one more in Rishabh Pant. I think he got an even better delivery in the second innings than the one that KL Rahul got. It's gripped, spun, there's bounce, overspin actually, and if you notice, Simon Harmer again varied his pace really well right through the time he bowled to Rishabh Pant in even the first test. So what could have Rishabh Pant actually done here? Not much, because that was an excellent delivery. Maybe he could have played slightly inside the line while playing against Harmer. But again, putting it into practice is putting this into practice would have never been easy against Harmer, a bowler of his class, of his control. Yes, then there is also Jurel. I think he's still a good player of pace. I like how he plays against pace bowling, but maybe he is a work in progress against spin bowling. Again, just like Rahul, he could have taken an off-stump guard. For some reason, the management didn't tell to him either. And Simon Harmer obviously flummoxed him. I'm pretty sure he will learn with time, because he's someone who's, I think, has a good temperament. Here, I just want to add one more point about Rishabh Pant. Yes, we are talking about second innings, but that was also the first innings dismissal. As one has noted in the past, that see Rishabh Pant is at his best when he plays a lot more strokes. But there comes a time, maybe at least once or twice, where you need to maybe play slightly differently. In the first innings, India had lost some wickets. They were well behind South Africa's first innings score. Somewhere he could have tried to bide his time a little more instead of just trying to smash Jensen out of the attack. And that's what he tried for taking a step or two and got out. So, yes, question marks will be asked about his temperament again. And you can counter me by saying that is how he plays. But especially in this situation, he could have played slightly differently, as he's also captain of the side as well, one has to remember. So that is about the top five. We will also look at how India 6 and 7, or especially the man who is in the news, Nitesh Reddy, batted. In the next episode, there's a little more to talk about India, how they played South Africa spinners. One thing to notice was the South African batters seem to seem to have more space in terms of the reach that they could have, their batters could have, and in terms of playing strokes, in terms of playing defending as well. Maybe that could be again a lot of slew of factors coming into the picture. It could be with regard to South African spinners getting a little more bite of the surface than their Indian counterparts, who may be darted, especially the finger spin duo, darted too much. Even Kuldeep Yadav, for some reason, was outbowled by Simon Harbour in terms of reps on the ball. That's an interesting point to note. We look at it in the next episode, that a wrist spinner got outbowled by a finger spinner in terms of imparting reps on the ball. But that's something to note. That also tells you that Indian batters perhaps don't have the conviction in their defense. In terms of playing their shots as well, they don't have that conviction. Maybe the South African batters played a lot more sweeps and reverse sweeps. Again, it comes down to having that conviction behind their shots. And that could be seen through stats as well. Maybe I think Indian batters scored some 70 odd runs while using the sweep and reverse sweep, while the South African batters scored more than double of them. Actually, I remember Indian batters scoring a lot more runs through the sweep and even the reverse sweep against New Zealand. For some reason, they have scored less runs than that against South Africa. Yes, it was three test match series against New Zealand, but still, I remember them using this shot or employing this stroke a lot more in that particular test series last year, where again they went down 0-3. So this is the first episode. Hopefully you like it. As I noted, observed, I still have to understand some of the nuances of running a YouTube channel. Hopefully, you will subscribe and watch this episode. This just I'm doing it just for passion, nothing else. Passion for the game, passion for analysis, maybe passion for history of the game of willow and leather. Thank you for taking your time out.